All right, welcome back to the channel. So, BoxingScene.com actually covers Glovegate. And you know what they talk about? The fact that Deontay Wilder said something that did not make sense. Deontay Wilder said that Tyson Fury's fingernails caused the cut on the inside of his ear. And of course, that's what Boxing Scene led with when they talked about Glovegate. That I do think is worth talking about, specifically because they ignored so many other things in the title. But let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back, welcome back. So Deontay Wilder makes an accusation that is hard to believe. I sat down and I listened to his interview with Brian Custer, and in the middle of the interview, he was talking about Glovegate. He was talking about how this Tyson Fury had glove problems and, well, you know, all the stuff that we've heard, that his glove was half, down in his hand, that he didn't have padding in his glove in the second fight. But then in the middle of it, he says something that was really hard for me to understand. And honestly, I'm a huge supporter of Deontay Wilder, and I know Tyson Fury cheated without a doubt. I see it on tape. But he said something that I was like, how could that be? How could Tyson Fury, with his hand in the glove, whether or not it was all the way in the glove and it was tight, or whether or not his hand was in the glove like this, how could he actually get to you with the fingernails? That did not make sense to me. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure that people are going to run with that and start saying that doesn't make any sense, and then try to go from a reasonable doubt that they could have about how fingernails could get in the ear, a corner of a glove, something like that, but how could a fingernail get out of the glove in there? That seems like a reasonable question to ask. How could that take place, right? And many people may say that they don't believe that that could have taken place. Now, here is the problem, okay? Boxing Scene led with that statement. Deontay Wilder says the cut was caused by fingernails. And I promise you, that was the only thing that sounded that doubtful in the entire article. The rest of the article was pretty much just them reciting everything else that Deontay Wilder had said. That Deontay Wilder, that Tyson Fury had his gloves down his hand and that you could see the glove moving around. And then in the second fight, that it had a smushed form and there was no real padding in the glove. You can see the guy's knuckles. Excuse me. So all of those things that are said in the whole article, clearly those are things that Deontay Wilder said, but it was just very interesting that they chose to lead in the title with the thing that was most easiest to doubt. So do you see what my problem is? If the job of a journalist is to give you the facts that they think that you need to make an educated decision, why would the first fact that they give be the one that is most likely to inspire doubt in somebody? And then in the middle of the article, talk about things that are blatantly obvious, like why is Tyson Fury's glove moving around on contact? All of the things that we see that we know looked funny. All of the things that would convince people that, hey, this guy cheated. But let me tell you how this cheating thing works and why this is important. You do not have to believe everything that Deontay Wilder said and believe that it happened exactly like Deontay Wilder said it happened in order for you to know that Tyson Fury cheated. Let me say that again. It is not necessary to believe every single solitary thing that Deontay Wilder said in order to determine that Tyson Fury cheated Deontay Wilder. All you have to do is believe one. If you believe that Tyson Fury had his hand halfway in the glove, and when he was hitting him upside the head, it wasn't with the padding. It wasn't with the padding of the glove. It was with his hand down here, whether it was the palm or whether it was the fist. Either one of those scenarios, if you believe it, you know that Tyson Fury is cheating, and you do not need to hear anything else. That's it. Again, Deontay Wilder does not have to prove that everything he thinks happened actually happened in order for you to determine that Tyson Fury cheated. You only need to know that one thing happened. So when Vinny Pazienza says that Tyson Fury was on human growth hormones, you don't have to believe that. If you look at the picture in the second fight and you see that Tyson Fury's hand can be seen through the top of the glove. Because you could say, I don't believe Vinny Pazienza, but I do believe my eyes, and I do see his hand coming through that glove. I know Tyson Fury cheated. Do you see what I mean? You do not have to believe everything that he said. In order to know that Tyson Fury cheated, you only have to believe one. So a reasonable question could be, well, then why is Deontay Wilder saying all this thing? I mean, clearly, if you don't believe one thing that he says, you can't believe anything that he says. Really tell that to Bob Arum, the Mr. I lied yesterday, today I'm telling the truth. Regardless, Deontay Wilder can be suspicious about a lot of things because he was cheated. And when people are cheated, they start trying to figure out all the ways that they could have been cheated, right? Like, hey, why were my legs so tired? Oh, a doctor tells me that there was something in who could have done that? Who held my water? Oh, obviously he doesn't have, or I would suspect that he doesn't have Mark Breland's admission that Mark Breland did that, or some eyewitness testimony that Mark Breland did that. He believes that Mark Breland did it. Why? Because he knows that what his body felt like. And may he be wrong about Mark Breland versus somebody else? Yes, he may be wrong, but it's not unreasonable for him to think that and to be looking for that. Because that's what people do when they feel like somebody took advantage of them. They start looking around and trying to figure out exactly what happened. And some of the things they may be right about, some of the things that they may be wrong about. But again, it only matters that they're right about one. And I'm telling you, with those gloves, both in fight number 1 and fight number 2, for me, that was enough. I never had to believe anything about water. I don't have to hear anything about nails cutting the ear. I don't need to hear anything about egg weights or any of that other stuff, because to me, that is all overkill. Because I saw Tyson Fury's gloves flapping around on his hands. I saw Tyson Fury's knuckles clearly in the second fight coming through his right glove. I saw that. Okay? As far as whether or not Mark Breland was fired, I know Mark Breland worked for Deontay Wilder, and if Deontay Wilder told him under no circumstances do you throw in the towel, then Deontay Wilder can fire him for that, because that is insubordination, and that is just a fact. The fact is that you get fired for insubordination. So what is everybody crying about? If Deontay Wilder, if Kenny Bayless had stopped the fight, hey, Kenny Bayless can stop the fight. Deontay Wilder does not have the power to tell Kenny Bayless not to stop the fight, or to tell a doctor from the ringside not to stop the fight. He does have the ability to tell Mark Breland that. So while we're nitpicking the little pieces, and wanting to highlight the pieces that don't make sense to you, hey, let me explain this to you as well. Just because I can't see how somebody's fingernails could get through and cut him doesn't mean that it can't happen. Why? Because I don't know. I don't know if it could happen. I didn't think somebody could hit you. Somebody could slide their hands down a glove and hit you with their knuckles right here against your head because you pulled your hand down. But I know it now because I saw Tyson Fury do exactly that. With Tyson Fury, you continue to learn new ways of cheating, okay? As far as the fingernails, was that the cause of the cut? I don't know. It seems implausible to me, but there's more than enough things for me to know that that dude cheated enough to be like, hey, man, chalk that up to Tyson Fury is really, really a big cheater. And now that Deontay Wilder was cheated like that, he might be slightly paranoid in some other areas, or he could just be wrong. But he has more than enough proof to know that Tyson Fury cheated him. And the media, you also have more than enough to proof to know that Tyson Fury is trying to duck out of the rematch and run away. And that is how guilty people act. Last time I checked. But that's my take on the situation. You let me know yours. And with that, I'm out. Peace.